Yesterday, we were at the beginning of the section, the origination of matter. So there are 4 causes of matter, and they are karma, consciousness, temperature, and nutriment. And karma produces the karma-born matter at the arising moment of relinking, and also it produces karma-born matter at every sub-moment all through life. And karma here means 25 wholesome and unwholesome karma of kama vajara and rupa vajara. And Chaita, here Chaita means 75 types of consciousness, excluding the immaterial sphere or arupa vajara, vibhakas, and then 2 sets of 5-fold sense consciousness. They are seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, and so on. And they produce material phenomena originating from consciousness. That means consciousness-born matter beginning with the first moment of life continuum. Life continuum means the first continuum, life continuum immediately follow the rebirth. So from that time on, at every moment of arising of each citta, the citta produces the citta-born matter. Cittas are said to be strong or strongest at the moment of arising, and matter is said to be strongest at the moment of presence. Now, among them, there is some things we should note, and so that is given on page 248. Among those cittas, the javanas of absorption also uphold the bodily postures. That means in addition to producing citta-born matter, they also uphold the bodily postures. And they are javanas of absorption. Now, javanas of absorption means javanas of rupa vajara, arupa vajara, and lokuttara. So they are altogether how many? Javanas of absorption. Rupa vajara, kusala, and kiriya. Arupa vajara, kusala, and kiriya. And 8 lokuttaras. So altogether there are 26 of them. So these javanas are called appana javanas in Pali. These javanas of absorption also uphold the bodily postures. Now that is why people can keep one posture for a long time when they are in absorption. That is why a person can be just sitting for the whole day or even 7 days when they are in the appana attainment. So appana javanas can uphold or maintain the bodily postures in addition to producing consciousness-born matter. And then determining consciousness, javanas of the sense sphere, and direct knowledge consciousness produce also bodily and vocal intimation. Now there are 2 intimations, bodily and vocal. So the determining consciousness means the manodvara vajana from among the 18 ahituka cetas. So the determining consciousness and javanas of sense sphere, kama vajra javanas. So 12 akusalas, 1 smile producing, 8 kama vajra kusala, and 8 kama vajra kiriya. So they produce in addition to producing consciousness-born matter, bodily and vocal intimation. And then the 13 jhanas accompanied by joy produce smiling too. So the 13 jhanas accompanied by joy produce, in addition to karma-born matter, smiling also. But it is to be understood that also means not just in addition to producing consciousness-born matter, but also uphold bodily postures, produce bodily and vocal intimation, and the last one, produce smiling. This is shown in the table on the right side. This table goes through the types of consciousness in detail. So greed-rooted joy, that means the 4 chetas accompanied by lobha and somanasa. There are 4 of them, and they can produce consciousness-born matter, they can uphold postures, they can produce bodily and vocal intimation, and also they can produce smiling. And then the other 4, accompanied by equanimity, they can produce 3 things but not smiling, because you smile with joy, you smile with somanasa, and not you smile with upekha. And then hate-rooted too can produce again 3 of them but not smiling. And delusion-rooted, because they are accompanied by equanimity, produce 3 and not the last one smiling. And then sense consciousness 10, that means seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, and so on, they produce none. And 2 receiving consciousness, they produce consciousness-born matter only. 3 investigating, they produce consciousness-born matter only. And 5 sense door adverting, it produces consciousness-born matter. And mind door adverting, that is the determining consciousness also. So it produces consciousness-born matter, upholds posture, and produces bodily intimation, but not smiling. And smile producing all 4 of them. So it produces consciousness-born matter, upholds posture, produces 2 intimations, and also produces smiling. And then sense sphere wholesome accompanied by joy. So there are 4. So they produce all 4. And sense sphere wholesome accompanied by equanimity, there are 4 of them. So they produce just 3 and not smiling. And then the resultant consciousness, all 8, produce consciousness-born matter only. And then functionals. Sense sphere functional accompanied by joy, all 4. And accompanied by equanimity, the first 3. And then fine material sphere wholesome, there are 5 of them, first jhana, second jhana, third, fourth, fifth jhana. So they produce consciousness-born matter, and also they uphold the bodily postures. Now they belong to appana jhavanas. And then the resultant ones can produce mind-born matter only, not postures and so on. And the functionals, because they are jhavanas, they produce mind-born matter and uphold postures. Immaterial sphere wholesome 4 arupa vajra jhanas, kusala. They produce mind-born matter and uphold posture. But the resultant, nothing at all. And the functionals, again 4, they produce consciousness-born matter and uphold postures. Supramundane 8, because they are jhavanas of absorption, they produce consciousness-born matter and they uphold postures. Direct knowledge. Now abhinya, direct knowledge means abhinya. Abhinya is the specially developed 5th jhana. So there are 2 of them, One is kusala and the other is kiriya. So these two can produce consciousness-born metta, uphold posture, and produce bodily and vocal intimation, but not the smiling. So how many javanas have produced smiling? 4, 1, 4, 4, 13. Now among those 13, if you go to the bottom of the page, 248, trainees smile with 6 of these cetas. So trainees are those who have reached enlightenment but who are not arahants. So sotapannas, the sakadagamis and anagamis. So they smile with 6 of these cetas. They are 2 connected with wrong view being excluded. Let us read from the beginning. An ordinary worldling may smile or laugh with any of the 4 cetas rooted in greed and accompanied by joy, and with any of the 4 great wholesome cetas accompanied by joy. So they may smile with akusala and they may smile with kusala. So they smile with one of the 8 types of consciousness. But the trainees smile only with 6 because trainees have eradicated wrong view and doubt. Since they don't have consciousness with wrong view, these 2 are excluded. So only 6 cetas remain, and with one of these 6 cetas, trainees smile. Arahants may smile with one of the 5 cetas. The 4 joyful great functionals, that means kama vajra kiriya accompanied by somanasa, and then smile producing ceta. And Buddhas also with one of these 5 smile producing cetas. So this is how the rupas or metta, material properties are produced by different types of consciousness, and also the upholding of bodily postures and producing bodily and vocal intimation and producing smiling. So from this chart we know what type of consciousness produces what kind of matter. This is the mind-born matter, the production of mind-born matter. Now we come to the temperature-born matter. Temperature means heat or cold. It is a fire element. So this fire element, which comprises both cold and heat, on reaching its stage of presence, produces, according to circumstances, both internal and external material phenomena originating from temperature. So here there are 2 kinds of temperature, internal and external. And they produce only when they reach the present stage. Now, as the material properties are strongest at the stage of presence, they produce temperature-born matter only when they reach the present stage. Now, consider the Patisandhi Citta. So at the first sub-movement of Patisandhi Citta, what material properties are produced? Kama-born, right? So kama-born materials are produced at the arising moment of relinking. But at the present moment of relinking, those kama-born material properties reach the stage of presence. So when they reach the stage of presence, they are strong. So among them there is the fire element. It may be cold or it may be heat. And so that fire element produces temperature-born material properties from that moment. And at the next moment also, those that arise at the present moment of relinking reach the present stage, then they are strong and they produce. And so almost at every moment, except the first sub-moment of relinking consciousness, temperature-born matter is produced. And then we have the nutriment-born rupa. So nutriment, known as nutritive essence, on reaching its stage of presence, produces material phenomena originating from nutriment at the time it is swallowed. Now, it is just a convenient statement that when at a time it is swallowed. Even before you swallowed it, when you put it in the mouth and then the essence in the food touches the taste buds, then from that time on, nutriment-born rupa is produced. Not only when you swallow it. So even before swallowing, you can experience the taste. So when you experience the taste buds experience the nutriment in the food. And so when those nutriments in the food reach the present stage, then they produce nutriment-born rupa. Now in the note, in the guide, there is a saying, the internal nutritive essence supported by the external produces material phenomena at the moment of presence starting from the time it is swallowed. Now, it is the opinion of one teacher. So according to the opinion of that teacher, it is the internal nutritive essence that produces nutritive-born matter. It produces nutritive-born matter when it gets support from the external nutritive essence. Now, there is nutritive essence in the food, and there is nutritive essence in your body. So according to this view, what produces the nutritive-born matter is the internal nutritive essence. But it can produce only when it gets the support of the external nutritive essence. That means only when you eat something and you get the nutriment from outside do they produce nutritive-born rupa. But there are other teachers who believe that external nutritive essence can also produce nutritive-born matter. Now you eat something and you gain weight, or you take some medicine and you become healthy and so on. And so they explain that that is the nutritive-born matter caused by external nutriment. So whether they are internal nutritive essence or external nutritive essence that produce nutritive-born matter, they produce only when they reach the stage of presence and not at the stage of arising and not at the stage of dissolution. So now we try to find out which material properties are caused by which cause. So for this, please turn to the chart at the end of this chapter. So on page 263, the second part of the chart. So there you see 4 causes. And 4 causes are karma, consciousness, temperature, and nutriment. So karma born, how many are karma born here? 18, right? Earth, water, fire, air, and then eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and form, not sound, and then smell, taste, tangibility, femininity, masculinity, heart base, life faculty, nutriment, and space. So they are said to be produced by karma. So you have eye sensitivities. These eye sensitivities are produced by karma. Ear sensitivity produced by karma, and so on. So whether you have good eyesight or not is the result of your karma in the past. So you have good karma and you will not have wear glasses even when you get old. But we are not like that. We have to use glasses because our eye sensitivity is not so good. So that depends on your karma in the past. From this chart you know which material properties are caused by karma only and which are caused by both all karma, jeta, temperature and nutriment. So among the 18, earth, water, fire and air are caused by all four causes. But eye, ear, nose, tongue, body are caused by karma only. And then form or rupa, visible object, is caused by four causes. And then sound. Now, sound is caused by only two causes, consciousness and temperature. So, sometimes it is caused by consciousness and sometimes it is by temperature. When you make a noise, when you make a voice, when you speak, then that voice or that sound is caused by your consciousness. And there are sounds outside the living beings, and those are caused by Utu or temperature. And then smell, caused by all four causes, and taste, all four causes. And then femininity is caused by karma only. According to karma, you are born as a female or a male. Masculinity also karma, heart base also caused by karma, life faculty caused by karma, and nutriment is caused by all four causes, and space by all four causes. Okay. So when you read down, you get the 18 that are caused by karma, and then the second column caused by consciousness. So the four great essentials, and then form, sound, smell, and taste. And then down there, what is this? Nutriment. And space, and all down until malleability. So these 15 are caused by consciousness. So they are called consciousness-born matter. And then temperature-born matter, again how many? 13. So these 13 are temperature-born, and nutriment-born are how many? 12. So these 12 are nutriment-born. So if we read across, then we see earth is caused by all four causes, water by all four causes, and so on. So karma-born matter, material properties are 18, jeta-born 15, temperature-born 13, and nutrition-born 12. Now we come to the four characteristic matter. They are not caused by anything. These characteristics of matter means arising, the production, continuity, decay and impermanence. So they are blank here. So that means they are not caused by any of the causes, because these characteristics are not produced by any, since their intrinsic nature consists solely in the qualities of being produced, etc. That means they are not the real rupas, but just the arising of rupa is called the production, and continuity and presence of rupa is called decay, and dissolution of rupa is called impermanent. So they are not said to be caused by any of the causes. Now next section deals with the material groups of material phenomena. So material properties arise as groups, and they are called in Pali Rupa Kalapa. Now Kalapa means group and Rupa means matter, so a group of matter. And there are said to be 21 of them, or the 21 of them are mentioned in the manual. And they have a common base, namely the cognizant great essentials, which are the proximate cause for the derivative phenomena as well as for each other, and they all occur together from the arising to their cessation. Now, that are constituted as groups must arise together, and they must cease together, and they must have a common base, something like Cetasikas. Now, what is the characteristic of Cetasikas? They must arise together with Ceta, they must perish together with Ceta, they must have the same object, and they must have the same base. So, similarly, those that are grouped into different groups must arise together, and they must cease together, and they must have a common base. Base here means the four great essentials, because they always depend on these four great essentials. Now, when making groups, the basis for these groups is the 8 inseparable material properties, and that are described as pure octet. So we find pure octet on page 246. So there it is said, a material group, Kalapa, that consists solely of these 8 elements is known as a pure octet, Suddhataka, or a group with nutritive essence as 8. So this pure octet will be the basis on which different groups are formed. Just as there are material properties produced by karma and others by Ceta and so on, the groups are also said to be the karma produced, consciousness produced, and so on. So therein life and 8 inseparable material phenomena together with the I are called the I-decad. So first let us see the I-decad. I-decad means 10 material properties grouped, which has the eye sensitivity. So there must be other 9 material properties in this decad. So they are the 8 inseparable ones and life or jivita. So just you keep 8 inseparable ones and then add jivita or life, you have 9. And then add the eye sensitivity, you get 10. So these 10 material properties are called I-decad. A group of 10 material properties with I in it. Similarly, by joining the former 9 together with the ear and so forth, the ear decad, nose decad, tongue decad, body decad, female decad, male decad, heart base decad should respectively be formed. So we have eye decad, ear, nose, tongue, body, female, male, and heart. What does the heart base decad consist of? 8 inseparables, life, and heart base, right? So male decad, life, 8 inseparables, and masculinity, female decad, life, 8 inseparables, and femininity and so on. Inseparable material phenomena together with life are called the vital nonad. Nonad means 9, a group of 9. So it is called vital nonad, Jivita Navaka in Pali. Since there are only 9, it is the 8 inseparables plus life. So 8 inseparables plus life is vital nonad, and then you add eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, femininity, masculinity, and heart base, and you get the other decades. So altogether there are 9 decades that are originated by karma, that are produced by karma. Next is Chaita-born groups. So the inseparable material phenomena constitute the pure octet. So first there is pure octet. This is one produced by Chitta. Then together with bodily intimation constitute the bodily intimation nonad. So if you add bodily intimation to the 8 inseparables, then you get 9. So those 9 are called intimation nonad. Together with vocal intimation and sound, vocal intimation decade. So when there is vocal intimation, there is always sound. So the two are together. So vocal intimation, sound, and pure octet, the group of them is called vocal intimation decade. And together with the material phenomena of the lightness triad. Now lightness, malleability, and wieldiness, they always arise together. So we cannot take just one of them. We must take 3 of them together. And so together with the material phenomena of the lightness triad, then we have undecade of the lightness triad. Here undecade means 11, a group of 11. So 8 plus 3, we get the group of 11. Then the dodecade of bodily intimation and the lightness triads. So we combine bodily intimation and light. 3 begin by lightness. So we get tridecade, 13 of them. These names are quite foreign to us. Undecade, dodecade, tridecade. Now, do means 2, tri means 3, and or un means 1. So, undecade means, decade means 10, so 10 plus 1, 11. Dodecade, 12, and tridecade, 3 of vocal intimations. So here, tridecade or 13 is 8 plus vocal intimation, sound, and lightness 3. And these 6 material groups originate from consciousness. So they are the groups of material properties produced by consciousness. So there are 6 of them. Next is the temperature-born groups. There also the first one is the pure octet. So pure octet is 1. The sound nonad, that means a pure octet plus sound. And then undecade of the lightness triad. Pure octet plus lightness triad. So 8 plus 3, 11. The dodecade of sound and the lightness triad. So here sound plus lightness, malleability, and wieldiness plus the 8. These 4 originate from temperature. So these are temperature-born kalabas or the groups of matter caused by temperature. And the nutriment-born groups, there are only 2 of them. So the first one is the pure octet, and the second one is undecade of the lightness triad. So the octet plus, pure octet plus lightness triad, and we have 11. So there are only 2 nutriment-born material groups. Of them, the 2 material groups produced by temperature, the pure octet and the sound nonet, are found externally too. All the rest are strictly internal. So, out of the 21 groups, only 2 groups can be found outside living beings. And the 2 are pure octet and the sound nonet. The others are all strictly internal. Only they are found only internally, only in the bodies of living beings. So, following this, we know that outside living beings, what we call non-living things, are just 8 inseparable material properties, and sometimes when there is sound, then they are sound nonet. So only these 2 can be found outside living beings. So the 8 inseparables are everywhere, in the trees, in the stones, in the rocks, the rivers, and so on. But when there is sound, then there is a sound nonet outside. So sound nonet can be both outside and inside. Pure octet also can be both outside and inside. But the others are always inside or internal. Let us look at the chart again. The chart is just a repetition of what we just read. So there are 21 groups. Or in the book, the vertical line after temperature born should not go up until the top. Please look at the handouts. There is a chart. The line should be like the one in the handout. So 21 groups, section 16 to 22, and then the line under it should go all to the end. And 2 nutritive bonds should be under that line. So the 21 should contain or include the 2 nutriment bond also. So the line there is not quite correct. So it should be like on the handout. Now there are 9 karma bond groups. So first group is called I decad, and now you see that the 4 essentials, and then I, and then what is this? Form, and then smell, and then taste, and then life faculty, and then nutriment. These 10 are called eye decad, and then ear decad with ear sensitivity, tongue decad with tongue, body decad with body, a female decad with femininity, male decad with masculinity, and base decad with heart base. And then there is the vital nonet. So the 9 of them, the 8 inseparables and life faculty. And then there are 6 consciousness born. So they are pure octet, the 8 inseparables, and then bodily intimation nonet, that is 8 plus bodily intimation. You go down and you see the bodily intimation there. And then vocal intimation decad, that means with vocal intimation and sound. And then decad, the 8 inseparables with 3, beginning with lightness. And then decad is 8 inseparables, and then nutriment, vocal intimation, and the three. Oh, there is sound also, right? In the book, they are not parallel to each other, so it is difficult to read. So you have to make some lines to show this. At least in my book. I don't know whether it is in this book. 263. Yeah, a little. So these are 6 consciousness born kalapas or groups of matter. And then 4 temperature born pure octet, sound nonet, decad and decad. And then 2 nutriment born pure octet and decad. 8 and 11. So from this chart you know what material properties are contained in what group. Let us say in the I decad you know that there are 8 inseparables and life and I and so on. Now, under the 21 groups, now we have space. Space is always blank. And the 4 beginning with production are always blank. Now it is mentioned in the manual that space is not considered to be in the groups because it is outside the groups. It is something that demarcates the different groups. And the characteristic marks just indicate, they are just the marks of the material properties. They are the arising, presence and dissolution of the material properties. So the wise state that they are not constituents of material groups, so they are not included in the material groups. Actually, the space is outside the groups, and so it is not included in the groups. And characteristic marks are just the mark or mode of the material properties. They are not the real ones. The marks are not the real ones, not those that really exist, and so they are not included in the material groups. Now, we would like to know when in one life these material properties first arise, and also at what moment they arise. And also we want to know when they last arise in one life. So this will be dealt with in the next section called the occurrence of material phenomena. Now all these material phenomena are obtained with no deficiency according to circumstances during the course of existence in the sensuous world. During the course of existence means after rebirth. Now rebirth is called rebirth and the rest is called during the course of existence. In Pali it is called pavati. You see the word in the Pali section of this page. Second line of Pali, pavatiyam. So we have 2, patisanti and pavati. At patisanti moment and during pavati. So during pavati means during life. Beginning with one moment from patisanti all through life. So during the course of existence in the Kamavajra world, all these material properties are obtained with no deficiency. But at rebirth linking, To moisture-born beings and to those of spontaneous birth, there arise at most the 7 decades. The decades of eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, sex, and the heart base. As a minimum, sometimes the eye, ear, nose, and sex decades are not obtained. This is how deficiencies of material groups should be understood. Or therefore, the deficiency of material groups should be understood by way of these groups. Now, there are now in this paragraph 2 kinds of beings are mentioned. To moisture-born beings and to those of spontaneous birth. Now, moisture-born beings are like flies, mosquitoes, and those are born on moisture or on dirt. And those of spontaneous birth, or the hell beings. Now it is said that devas don't have to be in the womb of their mother. So when they are reborn fully developed, about 16 years of age. So they are called spontaneous born. But we human beings have to be in the mother's womb for 10 months, and then we are born and we have to develop little by little. But for the devas, as soon as they are born the age of 16 years. So they are called opapatika. Opapada means dropping. So they are like they have dropped from some other realm, and so they are called opapatika in Pali, and this is translated as spontaneous birth. So moisture-born beings include certain lowly forms of animal life. So those that are born from dirt, water, and so on. So for them, at the moment of rebirth linking, how many decades arise? Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, sex, and heart-based decade. So these arise. As a minimum, sometimes the eye decade, ear, nose, and sex decades are not obtained. Sometimes there may be nose, eye decade, ear decade, and so on. So it is said that eye, ear, nose, and sex decades can be deficient. They may not arise in some beings. So these 2 kinds of beings, the moisture-born beings and those of spontaneous birth. So for them, at the rebirth linking, there are 7 decades, and sometimes some of them may be not found. Some of them may be missing. Now, to the womb-born creatures, there arise at birth 3 decades, the decades of body, sex, and the heart base. Sometimes, however, the sex decade is not obtained. Thereafter, during the course of existence, that means during life, after the moment of patisandhi, gradually there arise the eye decade and so forth. Now, human beings are born from womb of their mother, and so they are called womb-born creatures. They are human beings, animals, and some other beings. Now, there are 2 kinds of womb-born creatures. The first one is called egg-born beings, those who are born from eggs, and the other is those who are born from wombs. Birds are called egg-born beings. So first they have to be born as eggs, and then again they have to be born as birds. Actually, they are called twice born. Let us say for human beings, at the moment of patisandhi, how many decades are produced? Body decade, sex decade, and the heart base decade. So these 3 decades are produced at the moment of patisandhi for human beings. So when a human being takes conception, at the moment of conception, there is the resultant consciousness, and then Chaitasikas going along with it, and then these 3 decades. Since each decade has 10 material properties, that means 30 material properties are produced at the moment of rebirth for human beings and other womb-born creatures. However, sometimes the sex decade is not obtained. Sometimes a human being may be born without sex. Thereafter, during the course of existence, gradually there arise the eye decade and so on. Now, it is explained in the commentaries that at the beginning of this world system, when the Brahmas die from the Brahma world and they are reborn as human beings, so the first human beings are those born of spontaneous birth. So the first human beings didn't have to go through the process of pregnancy and so on. And at the beginning it is said that human beings are born without sex. So they are neither men nor women, just human beings. And then later on, due to their eating things and so on, they became differentiated as men and women. So that is why it is said here, sometimes the sex decade is not obtained. Sometimes means at the beginning of a world cycle. And also human beings may be born without sex. In connection with it, the commentaries explain how a fetus, not the commentaries but the Buddha himself and the commentaries added some more. So how a fetus develops in the mother's womb. I think it is interesting to know this. And they are given in the handout. Development of fetus in mother's womb. According to a discourse in the Samyutta Nikaya and also according to the commentaries. So there are 2 versions of this. Now the first one. The first week there is what is produced is called kalala. I gave you the Pali words also, kalala. It is clear water-like rupa. Now that is 3 decades, 30 rupas. So that is, in Pali it is called kalala. So that is produced at the moment of patisandhi, and during the first week it develops. And then during the second week it changes to what is called abbuddha, a foam-like rupa. First it is just a clear liquid. Now it becomes a little thick, so it becomes like a foam. And then third week it is called pesi, it has become a lump. And then fourth week it is called ghana, a solid rupa. Now it is hardened into a solid rupa. And then fifth week is called pasakha, that means 5 swellings. Now first it is just a bit of rupa, and now it has 5 swellings for heads, 2 hands and 2 feet. And Buddha stopped there and did not talk about the 6th week, 7th week, 8th week and so on. And then it is explained in the commentaries that at the 11th week or during the 11th week, eye, ear, nose, tongue sensitivities arise. And then jumping from the 11th week to 42nd week, they said head hair, body hair, nails and so on appear. So this is how the development of a fetus in its mother's womb is described in the commentaries. It may not coincide exactly with medical science now, but more or less I think it is interesting. Well, let's have a break.